Hey everyone, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I want to talk about the NSA, or the National Security Agency of the United States, because they're apparently here to help you control your location data and make sure you're not tracked. And I'm not kidding. This is actually what is happening here, because they just released a PDF today, August 4th of 2020, on how to mitigate the threats to your location data and your location tracking. And quite frankly, just after going through all of their advice, it's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Now, they fully admit that as much as you can mitigate this, you really can't escape it, short of just fully going off the grid and not having a mobile device or anything else. But they also mention in the article as well that they published that the risk isn't limited to just mobile devices as well. Things like fitness trackers, smartwatches, smart medical devices, IoT devices in your house, etc., are going to also be able to track you and locate you, not to mention data mine you, which is outside of the scope of what they're talking about here. They really focused on location data. They also warn you that specific apps and social media basically is designed to data mine you and track your location as well. This has been a huge problem that we've had with the federal government. As I've talked about, I don't know how many times over the last couple of years in these podcasts and videos, basically how companies like Location Smart, the law enforcement could just go to and in real time find out where I am via my cell phone or your cell phone or everything else just by what the cellular companies were giving away. I've also talked about your social credit score here in the United States, but these apps data mining you. But the NSA wants to help you at least just shore up your location, and I think the information they give is pretty good. Now, according to their list and mitigations, and this is really good advice, first things first, just disable location service settings on the device. That's going to help. You can also disable radios that are not exactly in use, or not actively in use, like Bluetooth, for example, or Wi-Fi. If you don't need to use them, turn them off until you do. You can also put the thing in airplane mode, your mobile phone in airplane mode when you're not using it. Obviously, that would be a bit of an issue if you're waiting for an incoming call. Don't use airplane mode, but you can do that as well. Also, they talk about apps. You should be giving apps the fewest permissions possible. Set the privacy settings to ensure that apps are not using or sharing location data. Avoid using apps related to location if possible, since these apps obviously expose your information as well. They also talk about disabling advertising permissions to the greatest extent possible. Their words, because sometimes you just can't turn this stuff off, as we learned with the TikTok app when I did a video on that a few weeks ago. But you can do basically, you can set your privacy settings to limit ad tracking. So understand though that that's somewhat at the vendor's discretion. You can also reset advertising IDs for your device. They recommend doing it at minimum on a weekly basis, which I find really interesting. You can turn off other settings in your Android or your iPhone, like find my device, those kinds of things, because if those things are on, they're obviously pinging back, because if you've lost your device or it's been stolen, that's essentially what will help you, but it's tracking you when it's not in use. And personally, I don't have that on as well. They also say, and I find this interesting, to minimize web browsing on your device as much as possible and try to set the browser's privacy permission location settings to not allow location data usage. Now, I've done that on my phone, but I'm the first to admit I am looking stuff up left and right, understanding that I am basically balancing that risk, with everything else. But we're talking specifically about location data. They talk about using a VPN, one especially that's no logging and anonymous, to help obscure your location. That's great advice. I do that one as well. And they also say minimize the amount of data with location information that is stored in the cloud. So one of the things that a lot of people do, and they don't realize it, is if they take a picture and they're storing it in the cloud, the metadata of that picture might have things like GPS locations. They don't mention that in the article, but that is a very true thing. Also, it is critical that the location is not revealed for a particular mission. For example, let's say you don't want to be found out, according to this article. They have other recommendations for that. So determine a non-sensitive location where devices with wireless capabilities can be secured prior to the start of any activities. So in other words, if you're going into that board meeting and all of that, and this is something that I recommend, especially to higher profile, larger clients, basically check your phones and electronic devices at the door, because that is going to help not track you in various ways. Leave all devices with any wireless capability basically somewhere else or turning it off, for the duration of that meeting. And if you have to transport something, if you're going back and forth, turn off the wireless capabilities as best you can. So I thought that was some pretty good information, but basically go through your app settings in general. You would be amazed if you've never done this, both on Android and iPhone, just how many apps say I need access to the camera. It has nothing to do with the camera, but it wants access to the camera. And so I use the concept, and if you're in cybersecurity, you know this, the concept of least privilege. So anytime I install an app on my phone, brand new, I immediately go into the settings of the app, I go to permissions, I wipe all the permissions out, and then I fire the app up. And usually, I want to say about 8 times out of 10, the apps don't complain. So why did they need those permissions to begin with? That's what we're talking about here. That's obviously a huge, huge issue, but the NSA has got your back, apparently, in terms of location tracking, which is mind-boggling to me, but I thought that would make a very interesting video/podcast for today, so here we are. Take their advice to heart, because I think it's pretty good. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online, and apparently stay away from locations on your phone. Thanks, guys.